The Afghan community in Adelaide has marched on Parliament House to demand the federal government allow 20,000 more refugees into the country as online protests were held in lockdown parts of Australia. Local Afghans deeply fear Taliban rule and say the Australian government has a role to play in Afghanistan to stop further bloodshed.
A crowd of over 400 people shut down one of Adelaide's busiest streets to call for the Australian government to fulfil its obligations to protect vulnerable Afghans.
We've got a large crowd who've gathered here in solidarity with the people of Afghanistan with very heavy hearts over what has been happening, over what has been filling our TV screens and our social media platforms.
Protest organisers say immediate priority should be helping Afghans stranded in countries nearby Afghanistan, and that Australia has a moral obligation to go back into Kabul and save people left behind.
There are people desperately waiting at the airport trying to get out of there. So we demand from the Australian government to resume evacuations and get the most vulnerable groups out of Afghanistan right now so they can come down in Australia and have a chance of survival.
The local Hazara community, who have faced historic massacres by the Taliban, are in contact with people in Kabul fearing a future genocide if they cannot escape.
There is no option. It's a matter of survival. And if they remain in Afghanistan, especially minority groups, they will not survive.
A particular focus of the protesters was reuniting families with relatives currently in danger.
We're here to demand the government to at least issue or commit to another additional 20,000 humanitarian visas like the US and the Canada, and to basically expedite the family reunification process.
Many attendees were under the age of 20, including this little girl.
She was talking about our grandmother. She's only 4 years old, and she knows what's happening, so that's pretty distressing, you know, not your typical Australian girl who would have to go through that.
The rally took place on the same day a second rescue flight from Afghanistan arrived in Adelaide, bringing another 137 people to South Australia. Online protests have taken place in lockdown parts of the country, the federal opposition among those voicing their support.
As a country that takes its responsibilities more seriously in terms of human rights, is to make sure that the most powerful voices are heard.
Joel Phillips, Sky News, Adelaide.